Okay, so we'll move on to staff and enrollment projections 2017-2018, starting on approximately board book page 59.
This is an annual report that I started to give to the board 6 years ago. It lays out a couple things. The first thing we start is with the current fiscal year, and this portion of the report is provided by Kristen. Kristen, you want to go through it? This is your data.
So on page 60 in board book, the first page is courses, current courses that we have running that are under 20. As you can see, currently there are 4 courses, which I think we feel we did a nice job with. 3 of which you were aware of. We brought them to the board in March for approval. One, we started originally at 34 when we went to section. But there are only 12 students that are currently enrolled. So in looking at the individual students that are no longer enrolled in the course, some students needed to take a required course. Some students we were able to move up into AP Studio Art. And then the remaining students either chose different electives or couldn't fit it into their schedule. So moving forward, we'll put a procedure in place that we monitor the enrollment of all courses in the summer prior to school starts. Because once school begins, it's difficult to address this problem. So we'll do that in the summer prior to August.
That's a singleton, correct?
It is.
So boards understand what a singleton means. It's a single offering.
Yep.
So if it conflicts with another offering.
The concern is whether people are gaming the system. We go from 34 to 12. You know, if people are signing up for classes to try to help their friends keep them. So you seem like you come up with a solution to follow up and address that.
And it seems like a lot of the
I don't ever remember one dropping that
changes
much.
were, neither do we.
Okay.
But a lot of the changes seem warranted. On the second page, these are classes that are over the recommended caps. So the first category is 25 to 1 plus or minus 2. So we're really looking at classes that are over 27. So how you can read this is if you look at English 10, for example, one of the 8 sections was over by 1 student. So that means we offer 8 English 10 classes throughout the day, and only one of them is over by 1 student, and they have 28 students in the class. The asterisks by the course code indicate that these courses are not at capacity because there are other English classes throughout the day that students can enroll in. Sometimes we have to overload a particular class because students need other classes throughout the day, and this is the only option for them. So you can see very few classes are over the cap by more than 1 or 2 students. On the third page, provided information regarding the mandated courses for special populations. I want to point out for number 15, study skills, there are 94 students, but the 6 means that there are 6 classes throughout the day. So on average, there's a little under 16 students in each class. And then lastly, the English language learner classes, the enrollment is provided for you below. We did get a lot of students that moved in after the school year started that speak limited English. And so we'll be needing to offer some ELL classes next year. Moving on to the next page, this is just an update on average class size. So if you look all the way to the bottom right, the overall class average is 27.36. The overall class average without our 40 to 1 classes, which are primarily our PE classes and our music classes, is 25.99. And our overall class average of core classes, which are math, science, English, and social science, is 25.8.
So if we want to get that a little bit lower, that's where those 2 teachers we put in the projection would come in. Okay, any other questions on this item?
Seems like it's the best since there aren't very many courses that are over and not very good by very many. Just like you guys did a real nice job.
Seems tighter than the budget.
Yeah, not your budget.
Okay, will that conclude this section, Doctor?
It does. Next is feeder school enrollment. Scott, this is your data. Present, please.
Okay, if you look at our chart that we have there. It is capturing all our feeder districts and all our students at the various grade levels. So this should hopefully help answer some of the questions that were presented earlier with the projections on it.
Next page.
Okay, here is the enrollment projections moving forward. Okay, you can see we start with the projections to the actuals just to try to show how close are we with our projections. If you look at FY17, projected 1632, the actual is 1636. Pretty close on the projections that are out there. Using the data from the feeder school chart previous, carrying out the projections, you can see where there's roughly a little bit of an increase of roughly 10 students and then 15. Then you see the spike that comes, which would be where those additional teachers would need to be added.
So we need 2 for possibly next year to get us to 27-1 in senior level math and English. We should be able to hold steady, so the projections may be high or heavy in 19. We would need to add at least 2 back in 2020.
Okay, and
And bottom chart, Scott, that just shows in-house. Why is that different, just so they're aware again?
Students who are placed out of district, but still on our books.
Okay?
could you explain that?
So there's
We're gonna
special
go to school
education
here.
students that are within our district, but they are attending school elsewhere. They're receiving their services through a different school, like either a therapeutic school or a residential school.
So what's causing the spike in a couple years out? Because I'm looking at 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade.
So 18, so you want to look at the 6th grade of 2020, if you go back 2 pages. That's at 479.
Because you're projecting next year to be 383 off of 480, are you not?
383 is the actual, is that?
That's our current enrollment.
That's correct.
So you're
380.
projecting,
We're
sorry, you're
projecting
projecting 403 off of 4. What are you projecting off of the 480 in 8th grade?
432. That's what we're projecting next year for a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a 50%, almost 50 kids increase from this year's.
All right.
Okay. The next item?
Between 2019 and 2022, though, we're going to
Go
go
back
up.
down.
We're going to go up from 2019 to 2020. The projection is we're going to go up 32 students, then come down a little, and then come down 50 students. So in 3 years, we're going to go up 32, roughly remain same, and then go down 50. That's our current projection.
Just looking at the enrollment right now in the
Yeah,
feeder school,
I
it
mean,
doesn't
yeah.
account for mobility, so it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, transfers is a
Transfers.
big deal.
So what we provided you on the next page, and I'm sure you're all familiar with this chart now. Left box, yellow, total FTE, 101.2, that's where we're sitting currently. The yellow boxes are cells underneath it, or what I like to call is your superintendent, the required FTE, or people that aren't necessarily in classrooms or have different sets of populations they need to maintain, but they're part of our certified staff. So that's 5 counselors, 2 social workers, 12.2 in special ed, 1.2 in instructional coach release time, or better known as, some people know those as like similar to department chair positions. Librarians 1, ELL is a 0.4, credit recovery is a 0.2, literacy coaches are 0.8, dean's office, that's a 0.2 release for Ms. Sullivan, and instructional technology to help out with our one-to-one initiative is a 0.8. So required FTE are 23.8 of that 101.2. And the chart to your right shows roughly that historically over 60% of our students take at least 7 classes. So you take the 1636 with our current in-house enrollment of roughly 612, And that shows you the breakdown and the overall class average. The projection says with required FTE, we should have been around 100, we're at 101.2, or roughly a plus 1.2. What I'm projecting for next year at 1645, if we kept the same overall class average, we would still need to add about a 0.9. If I take that, if you look at the third chart below, if I take that down to 27 overall class average, which would get us then across the board in all math and English classes at a 27-to-1, ratio will be at 103.3, or roughly 2 teachers, 2.1 teachers. The box to the left, the only thing that changed, I put question marks by special ed. We have increased special ed almost by 1 FTE every year. And I put a question mark by a certified nurse. Right now, we were unable to find a certified school nurse, so I believe we're hiring an RN, or recommending an RN, so that would not count. But if you hired a certified school nurse there, they would have to go on a teacher's certificate because they have a teacher's license for school nursing. So long story short, you saw the enrollment projections. Next year, we're anticipating 1645, 1624 roughly in-house. It does take into account some transfer factor. We're projecting roughly a two teacher increase to bring our teaching staff to roughly 103.3.
Question in the projections and the data from the feeder schools, can you get any information on special ed?
We already have that on, if you go back to page 64, we started collecting those numbers for 5th, 6th, and 7th, 8th graders of how many are outplaced.
So is that what that is?
Yeah, outplaced or homeschooled. So we have an idea of if a student's already in a therapeutic day or an outplaced school.
So that's what that
Coming.
means.
Correct.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any other
Thanks.
questions on this chart?
Nope.
I just want to reiterate, when you say that we're spiking the enrollment, it's just a very, percentage-wise, it's
Small.
small. So I don't want that getting out in the community that we've got this massive new need.
No,
Okay.
actually by 22 you drop down to lower than where we're at today. If things held consistent, but you can't, with transfers or mobility rates.
Okay, thank you for that. So the next item, discussion items, information items, Dr. Skikas?
FOIA, no FOIA requests, First Avenue bike paths, no updates, still on track to try to get it done before the end of November.